Have you got strands of beads you want to use but are tired of boring, simple, strong beaded jewelry? Maybe you're looking for a design that's interesting and creative but also easy to do. Hey there, Sandy here. Want to be inspired and grow in your creativity? You're in the right place. Welcome to another jewelry tutorial at keepsakecrafts.net. If you've been following me for a while, then you know that I get the dollar bead box and bag subscription every month. The dollar bead bag consists of 8 strands of Czech Fire Polish beads, 4 3mm and 4 4mm. And when I got the November bag, I just loved how they all looked together. It made me think of a party. And I decided I wanted to make a bracelet with these. Now, I have done bracelets with the Czech Fire Polish beads, just multi-strand bracelets using rows of the beads, and they look great. So I wanted to do something a little bit different this time. But you don't have to use Czech Fire Polish beads. You can use any beads you have in your stash. If you've got bunches of little beads, 3 and 4 millimeter beads that you want to use, then this would be a great project for that. What I have here are 9 strands, and you need 6 of the strands to be at least, for an average size bracelet, you need them to be about 6 inches long. Then you need 3 that are going to be longer. So that's why these are all the 4mm, because these strands are longer, and all of my 3mm are just barely 6 inches. And that's for an average size bracelet. For me, I need about a 7 1/4 inch bracelet. You'll also need a pair of multi-strand separators. I got these from Art Beads a while ago. These are 7 to 1, which will be just right for our 9 strands. And these are gold plated, so I used mostly gold plated findings in this, but you can use whatever you have. I just thought these looked really pretty with these beads. Now, because these loops are pretty small and tight, and I'm fitting 9 onto the 7 strands, 2 of the loops will have 2 strands on them. And I'm pretty sure these are too small to fit 2 wire protectors on each one, so I'm not going to do wire protectors. If you had a 9 to 1 bar and you wanted to, you could. But there's going to be 18 crimps on this bracelet. So I thought I would save myself a little bit of work and not do the wire protectors. I don't think this bracelet's going to get so much wear that it will be a problem. Now, I just got back from the craft store. I went specifically to get gold colored bead stringing wire for this project, and I was very disappointed that they did not have it in higher strand count than 7. I'm not really thrilled with using 7. I usually totally ignore it and get either the 14 or the 49, but this was all they had. So what I made sure to do is I got a fairly thin one. The problem with the 7-strand wire is that it just tends to be a little stiffer. It doesn't drape as nicely as the wire with more strands braided on the inside. I don't know if it's braided or if they're side by side. It's just a nicer quality the more strands there are. So to kind of make up for that, since I'm using just really lightweight beads, I got a pretty fine wire. So hopefully my bracelet will be nice and drapey and won't look stiff and awkward. I don't think it will. So for designing your bracelet, you want to think of these 3 strands as a separate entity from these 6. And like I said, you want to be sure these are going to need to be a bit longer because they're going to weave diagonally across the other ones. And then you just want to arrange your other ones in whatever order you want them to be. They're going to be kind of a band going across the bracelet at just a slight diagonal opposite to these. But these will be one group and these will be another. So I have these arranged with the gold one in the middle and the lustery ones on the sides, and these are just sort of arranged. They could be totally random. So to give you an idea of how this pattern works, I'm going to tape these down to my little tile here. This is really simple, but it looks fantastic. You're going to take the strand that's closest to you and weave it over the next strand, which is not taped down. Weave it over the next strand and under the one after that, and then over, under, over the green, under the purple. Hey, stay in order. Over the gold, under the copper. Now take your next strand, which will be the second one of your bundle of 3 here, the middle one, and you're going to go over the next strand above it and then continue the pattern under. Make sure these might want to jump out of order, so make sure they're in the same order. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to thank my patrons. Without their support and encouragement, I don't know that I would still be making YouTube videos. If you like my tutorials and want more, I make 2 bonus videos for my Patreon supporters every month. Just saying. And that they didn't get twisted around like that one did on me up there. So let's see, over and then under the green and over the purple, which is opposite of the other one. And under the gold and over the copper. And then take that third one up, so that'll be the outer one of the outer ones of your bundle of 3, and do that one more time. Over, under, over the green, under the purple, over the gold, under the copper. And now they're back to the original order. But you have this really cool twist. And that's it. That's all you have to do. So what I would recommend you do is you get out your bead stringing wire, go ahead and string them all on one of your separator bars, and you'll just have to decide which of these holes is going to get 2 strands. I'll probably, just to keep things symmetrical, because I like symmetry, I'll probably do the ones on either side of center. So here's the center one, that'll get 1, that'll get 2, and that'll get 2. But you can do it however makes you happy. I don't think in the end it's going to matter. String your beads on. String your 6 strands of beads so that they all are the exact same length, which would be the length you want your bracelet, less about 1 inch for the clasp and the findings. Make liberal use of bead stoppers. Make sure that you clamp each end in a bead stopper, and I only have 6 here, so you can use small binder clips to hold the other strands. You're going to string a little bit more. If you're going to do 6 inches here, well, let's see. Let's grab this and see. It looks like that's under 7 inches, so probably 7 inches or so of beads on these other 3 strands. If you trim the end of your bead stringing wire, you might be able to slip this in alongside the cord that the beads are already on, and so you could probably get down 1 inch or a couple inches before pulling them off onto this wire. In fact, you could leave this right on the spool as you do that, or put a bead stopper on. And so you can string them in big chunks instead of having to do them all individually. I'm using gold-plated crimps just because I could find some. This is the Gold Elegance, and my 1-step crimper to crimp them all. And of course, as you always do, make sure after you crimp every one that you test them and make sure that they're strong before you trim the extra wire. So I did all that stringing, and now it's time to just make sure that all of these 6 strands are the same length. So I'm actually going to live dangerously here and just take my bead stoppers off because it's easier to manage the strands individually. And yeah, see, you can also use like a bulldog clip. The little ones are great for that. So we'll just pull these up, see which one is the shortest. I have more of those gold beads, so I think I'll add 1 more. Okay, so these are all pretty close. I'd say that's pretty good. I don't think I need to do any adjusting. So now this part is a little tricky, just in that you have to wrap your mind around it. So on this end, these strands are connected to these loops that are further away from you. But remember that we're going to weave these three through these. So these three will be on the top, will be the top three, the ones further away from you. So what you'll need to do is attach these strands to this side closer to you. And you just do it the same way that you did on this end, adding a crimp. Slide the wire through, put the wire back through the crimp and crimp it. If you want to know more about crimping, if you're new to jewelry making and you don't know about crimping, I'll link to a Friday Findings video I've done on using crimping in your jewelry, and also this tool, the Step Crimper, which is wonderful because it makes what is a couple steps really into one. And I love this tool, especially when I have a lot of crimps to make. And I'm not going to add crimp covers down here because this tool makes a nice, neat, small, flattened crimp. Before I have an opportunity to make a mess here, I'm just going to clamp these back together. And you want to add them to this bar flat so that they're not going to be twisted at all. The only thing you're going to do is shift them down to the loops closest to you, whereas up here they take up the ones furthest away from you. Now I have the 6 strands all strung, and as you can see, this side of the 6 strands is strung on the loops that are furthest away from us, and on this side they're just shifted just at a slight diagonal to be on the ones closest to us. And on both strands, I don't think this matters that much, but on both strands, I've put 2 strands on each of the loops on either side of center. So now that we have our 6, we can start weaving in the 3 that remain over here. You're going to start just the way I showed you before with the one that's closest to you. And it's just an over-under weaving pattern. The tricky part is keeping these strands parallel and so that you don't mess up the pattern. So I just went over the gold, under the sparkly one. So I'm going to go over this gold. I'm going to go under the sparkly, over the green, under the purple, and under the copper. So under the sparkle, under the purple, and under the copper. It's kind of easier to make note of the ones you want to go under, and rather than trying to keep them all flat because they tend to move around on you. Now I'll take the second one, which will be the center of your 3 that will be woven, and repeat over. So I'm going to go under gold, green, and gold. So gold, green, and gold. I love this type of bracelet with all these different strands, and I just thought this was a really different, interesting kind of twist on it. And then this one is going to go under sparkle, purple, copper. Get back on there. And I have these snugged right up to the beads because it's easy to end up with gaps in the beads. So I made sure before I started doing the weaving that I put the bead clamps on and snugged it up down here so that there aren't any gaps. Let's see, when we get to this end, this one went over the copper, so it's going to go under this one. And this went onto the copper, so it's going to go over this one and under this one. And then at this point, it's up to you to decide how snug. You don't want to pull it tight like this because then you don't really see your pattern. I think it looks nice if it's just kind of light and loose. So you see these graceful lines going through your bracelet. So at this point, I'll decide where I'm going to take off the beads. So I'm looking at this line here with the wire. So I'm going to take that off there. And I'm just going to put those in here. I'll put them away later. And let's see, this loop is the one beside the center, so it'll be sharing with the previous one. Another reason I decided not to put bead crimp covers on these crimps is that these are so close together, I think it would be kind of crowded. If you can find small crimp covers that will work, then you can use them. But like I said, the one-step crimper does a pretty nice job of making neat looking crimps. So I pulled it, notice I pulled it snug and then backed it out just a little, maybe 1/8 of an inch. And get in there with your crimper. And that loop's kind of big, so I'm just going to pull it up a little, back it out a little. I love this. It does such a nice job. And then always pull and test. And I did have a few fail as I was doing it, so it's always important to test. You don't want your bracelet falling apart when you're wearing it. And then you repeat to add your final 2. Now that you've learned this design, you'll want to check out my bead stringing playlist for details on the tools and techniques you need to make sure your crimps are beautiful and secure. Go ahead and add a clasp, whatever you need to make your bracelet fit. You might need some extender chain.